All right, so we got the Schrade Old Timer, model number 25 OT. So I guess it's model 25, and the OT is for Old Timer. Give a quick look at it. Okay, so I just got this knife, leather sheath, brand new for the most part, but it's old. So it's a little aged. I'll read out the specs real quick on this guy. So this particular model was produced between 1964 and 1993, from what I gather. The dimensions are 5 1/4 inch closed, and the knife itself is 6.5 ounces. With the sheath itself, I think is somewhere around 2 ounces or so. So it's like 8.59 ounces total with the sheath. The blade steel is high carbon, is what I've gathered. I'm thinking 1095, 1075, 1080, 1090, something, It is not a stainless steel. It is a carbon steel that they used, for what I've kind of checked and looked up. Now, these knives are produced in China, and it is a 7CR MOV 13 or whatever it is, something, some Chinese steel, stainless. Saw cut, Staglon handle, grips. You can see there, and you can see the condition this thing's in. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I don't know if they buffed this out. The outfit that I bought the knife from, it was buffed out. But there's no oxidation or rust on the blades. And the bolsters are very nice. In fact, I got this. Here's my Buck 110, the one I bought 2 years ago, I think. And it's oxidized pretty good, pretty quick. Granted, it's carried quite a bit, but this is nickel silver, I think, whereas these are brass on this particular knife. All right, so whoa, that's a large window, 1964 to 1993. There's no real markings on the blade that I'm aware of to denote the year of manufacture, besides if they changed orders of things, and I'll open the blades up here in a second. But I've deduced that the knife was built somewhere between 1976 and 1989, and I am just going off of the Lanyard Hole. I think they started out with the Lanyard Hole for a few years, then they went away from it for a few years, and then they started making them again up until 1989. In 1989, they changed and they stopped putting the lanyard hole in, up until they discontinued the model in 1993. Then, of course, like I said, at some point, they reintroduced a lot of the Schrade Old Timer models, and to have them produced in China. So I don't know if it was a change of ownership or the company itself just decided to do that. I don't know. One little write-up I saw, a little blurb online I saw, was the prices. The last price in 1993, this knife went for $49.95, was kind of like the going rate. As of 2008, when the article that I was reading was written, with inflation and whatnot, the price would have been $66.95. So that's 12 years ago. So I don't know. It'd be maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of $75 by now, 12 years later. I don't know really how the inflation's gone percentage wise, but I paid $51 plus $3 in shipping, or $3 and change in shipping. So pretty stoked, to be honest, about that. Just because the condition it's in. The sheath smells like a surplus store. It's kind of cool. good leather, but then it definitely has a kind of a surplus mothball smell to it. The knife itself, I detected some kind of some kind of light oil, though I can't see any on it. The blades are absolutely perfect, and I'll pull those out here in a second. I just wanted to kind of read off the specs of what I gathered, and then we'll kind of get into it. A lot of this is going to be opinion. I'm not a slip joint traditional person, though I grew up seeing them. In fact, this is, besides a Swiss Army knives that I've owned, I think this is the only Swiss or slip joint knife that I've ever owned, for sure. And we'll get into it. So I'm going to pause the video real quick and get this knife prepared. All right, so I'm back. Got it opened up. All right, so 4-inch clip blade, clip point. Let's see if we can get that to focus. Schrade USA 25 OT. So this ain't no Chinese piece of shit, is it? The real deal. So it's a 4-inch clip point. That's a big bastard. Flat ground. Kind of a, I don't even know what you'd call that. The finish on it. Kind of flat. Not polished. But if I can get into the check that secondary bevel, it's tiny. This thing is a freaking razor scalpel. I mean, I don't know anything like this. You can't even detect, like when you look at the naked eye, it almost looks like it's just been deburred, like it's a zero grind that's been deburred, honestly. And I don't really know how to treat this thing because, sorry, it's not really focusing too well. Just trying to get it so you can see it. At some point I might be able to. But yeah, I mean, the only how I sharpen knives is with a sharp maker, which the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of think that's just the way to go. But anyway, I'll put a 15 degree on it, I guess, which I think is adequate. But I sure wouldn't want to mess up the cutting geometry on this thing. To be honest, the thing is not sharp. Okay. It's not very sharp. I mean, it's definitely it's apexed, but just cutting phone book paper, it cuts the phone book paper, but it doesn't really slice it too well. So it's a little rough, but I'm not concerned about that. I can take care of that real quick, especially with that tiny little secondary bevel cutting edge. So it's pretty nice. I'm pretty stoked. It's definitely, as far as I know, the best cutting geometry on a knife that I own. I mean, I would think that it'd put modern production knives, their cutting geometry to shame. I mean, the Buck 110 here is probably the other one, my other better one. It's got that nice Harlow grind. This thing's a slicing machine. It just bites. It's got good bite when you're cutting things such as wood or animal hide. So that's a 3 3/4 inch blade clip, Buck 110. And this is a 4-inch. It's actually a little over 4-inch because I put it up against the old. It's kind of hard with but it's a good quarter, at least an eighth, possibly a 1/4 inch longer than that Recon 1. And I'm kind of using the Recon 1 because it's flat ground, buoy shape, clip point, got some pitch on it. So that's pretty nice. It's a double blade, kind of got a little tiny little finger choil in it. I've done it does bite into wood. I mean, I'm not saying the thing is dull. It's just not polished up sharp. I can do what I can. I am by no means a sharpening expert, but I definitely could put an edge on a knife with that sharp maker that's makes me happy. And you can see kind of the cutting edge shape. The Buck 110 looks like it's a little bit of flat run here, but it's pretty much all belly up to the tip. This one does have a long run of flat, it appears. So it's kind of like one take on that clip point shape. Um, Nail nick. Think stock is pretty much the same as the Buck 110, maybe a little skinnier. So I think this is about 125 thou. It's about an 1/8 inch. This might be just a little bit under that. Very nice though. Good grip. Good simple. Kind of like that traditional peak there in the middle. Cold steel is copied. So this is like this is a design, like that handle. This knife design. It's a knife design. And what is this? This is like a trapper style knife that's large. It's like a very large trapper knife. And when I pull out that other blade, I can point that out. And I'm not a real traditional knife person, though I've been wanting to get one. I just didn't know what to get, like a slip joint. I'm kind of a lockback fan myself. I mean, or even a liner lock if I was going to get like an old traditional style knife, but it's a slip joint. That's cool. I'd have been probably even more happy if it had like liner locks for both blades, or I've seen double bladed lockback knives. Maybe even I don't see why they couldn't do a double liner lock, especially if you had blades coming out both ends. But this is an asymmetrical handle, It's not symmetrical, so it's definitely a coming out one end style. So I don't know if that made any sense. So flat grind, hollow ground, flat ground. Kind of the both of the same era. So if this thing came out in 64, as far as I know, that's when Buck 110s came out. It was 1964. So what do we got here? This is like the original Benchmade Spyderco, the Schrade, Buck, kind of two large American companies. Back then, I think, Case was still around. Obviously, it was around at that point. But when I was a kid growing up, this is when you went to the hardware store. These are the knives you always saw. You always saw these in those knife cases, along with case knives in those knife cases. And I'd always looked at them because I always liked knives, ever since I was born probably, but never had one. My dad may have had one. I think he has a single blade. I haven't seen that for a while. But he always had the Buck 110. So that's, so I kind of see this as the Benchmade of the era. It's definitely the more fancy knife. This is definitely the more rough cut. And I'll get into kind of the fit and finish on this thing. I've owned, at the moment I have 3 Buck 110s. I guess that's all I've ever owned. So I've owned 3 Buck 110s and I have 3 Buck 110s. This is the newest one I have. And on any of them, I can't detect any anomalies or problems with fit and finish. I mean, absolutely, they're all flawless. This one, I've actually kind of seen a couple, but you know what? I don't see a problem with that at all. I mean, I'm not a fit and finish. I figured these are a little cheaper, I think, than a Buck, and theoretically inferior steel, though I'm not so sure. I was definitely stoked. I'm definitely happy to get a carbon steel. It seems a little bit more natural. And they Schrade Old Timer stuck with that all the way to the end. So that's cool. But yeah, let's get to that other blade. So I'm going to pause this real quick because I obviously am one-handing it. So this was a selling point. I just kind of checking knives out and everything. I kind of came across this design. Case makes pretty much the same knife to this day. And a couple of other models, you can get it in their CV steel, their carbon steel, carbon vanadium. But look at that. That's a skinning blade, kind of a fillet blade. Pretty much the same stock thickness. Yeah, definitely the same stock thickness as the clip, but it just has a little bit different shape. Very nicely ground though. I mean, on this one, you can, there again, if even less, you can't even detect. It's like a zero grind. Now, I'm not saying it is, but same thing, cutting, it's sharp, but it's not, it's a little rough. So definitely going to polish it up on stones. on that sharp maker. But that's a pretty cool skinning blade, fillet blade style, secondary blade. Keep that nice razor sharp. Use this for the industrial purposes. But getting back to, oh, and another thing on this. So let's check this out first. No tang stamps on this one. But so it's a trapper, I guess, right? Trapper design, trapper model. I mean, you got the main clip, and then a secondary. A lot of those trapper models have a spade blade, which I don't think is very cool. I definitely like this one a lot better. I think is this a Turkish clip that I've seen? I don't know. I think maybe you call that a Turkish clip shape. I think it's pretty cool though. Just a good fishing, hunting, bird blade drop point. In my opinion, that's not really a clip. In my opinion, it's more of a drop point. Good hunting, skinning blade, skinning game blade, secondary. Or maybe even just slicing up vegetables, whatnot. 4-inch blade, perfect. So you got that Delrin handle. I don't know. It's just typical. One of my reviews is kind of scattered all over the place. So let's, I'll be right back here. I'm going to pause this one again. All right. So I just wanted to point out something here. This thing is a needle tip. I mean, we're talking a needle. Now, hopefully that comes out on camera is what I intended it to. But these guys, Bucks, the 110s too, this newer one is actually not as fine at the tip as even my late 90s 110. I don't have it on hand. But you can even see here that, damn it, you can even see here that that Old Timer is actually thinner out there at the tip and a longer blade than the Buck. The only thing I can compare it to that way is this is a ProTech brand, the large. And I mean, I'm not going to put these side to side, but you can see how thin of a needle tip that thing has too. And it is swedged. So there is taper there. So it's kind of, you have to make sure that you're actually looking at the correct width of that blade, thickness, but it's very thin. I don't know if it's focusing too well. Anyway, so I guess I kind of started looking at these because also Cold Steel this year is coming out. It hasn't come out yet, but it's the Ranch Boss 2. Now, it's basically this blade, but it's got, I think the pivot is adjustable, and then I think you could take the knife apart. I think that there's bolts, there's like hex screws on the body, and then a hex adjustable pivot bolt as well. And I mean, I'm all about that, just in case the thing develops a little play, you can always tighten the thing down. Plus Cold Steel, that's why I like Cold Steel. And then I'll get to why it's unfortunate. But it's also liner lock. So it's apparently that Ranch Boss 2 retails or sells for about $40. And I don't think it's out yet. But apparently it's really stiff slip joint with a half stop. And then a very strong spring back here, but it has a liner lock on it as well. So I don't know if it's the kind of liner lock that slides over the blade or it actually tensions the blade. I'm not sure. Haven't had one in hand. And it's SK5 carbon steel. Cool, because that's what I was kind of after. If you can get a traditional style, I like to get a carbon steel. Now, the problem with it is it's made in freaking China. So they do something like that. They put SK5 steel on it, and then that's still made. And then they had that model made in China. And I'm not really sure why. And I just don't like Chinese knives. Like the shirt's probably made in China. I don't know. My socks probably are, but I definitely don't like Chinese knives. I definitely would rather have a U.S. made knife. But it is pretty much an homage to this shape. And Cold Steel in the past has another model out like that. Well, I think I'm running out of time on this. I'm just going to close with Lanyard Hole. I got this from my dad a long time ago. It's probably older than me, but it's just paracord. Kind of like a coyote brown tan and then like an army green, and then it's been sewn together. And it's just a big old chunk. I have a bunch of these old chunks. I pretty much got like a box full of little paracord from my dad, but I'm going to use that. I'm going to put a lanyard on this so I can, I don't know, maybe tie it onto my belt or a belt loop and drop it in my pocket, that kind of thing. But it does have this really sweet sheath as well. So All right. Well, thanks for checking this out. If you're a slip joint traditional connoisseur that knows a ton about these, hopefully I didn't butcher this review too much. But pretty cool knife. Got it for a good deal. And I'm looking forward to using it out in the field for hunting and for just regular old bushcrafting about. All right. Have a good day.